everybody. Welcome back to another week of Travel Talk. I see we have a lot of hellos and welcomes in the comments already, which makes me so excited to have a great group of women here today to hear about our Borneo Wildlife Adventure recap. And we have an awesome guest today. We have Marianne from the Women's Travel Club. As most of you, I would assume, know her at this point, but if you don't, Marianne is our CEO and a tour host with our company. So she went on our Borneo adventure last year in 2023, took some amazing pictures, and so did the other women on the tour. And everything you are about to see today, I will preface, was taken by the Women's Travel Club videos and pictures. So we have a really authentic presentation for you today. And with that, I will bring on Marianne. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Allie. Hello, everybody out there watching.
Yes, it's like saying hello to everybody, and sometimes you get comments saying hi back, sometimes you don't. Today we've got great group of women in the comments saying their hellos, so I'm really excited to share with them your adventure in Borneo last year.
Excellent. I'm very excited to share it too.
Yes. So I'll get this presentation up. Now I will say these beginning pictures, unfortunately, were not taken by the Women's Travel Club. Everything after this slide that you will see were taken from the Women's Travel Club. But without further ado, getting into those pictures, but this is Borneo. So Marianne, Borneo is a very it might not be as well known as most other countries in Southeast Asia or areas, but on a map, where am I looking here to kind of find Borneo?
Okay, so this is a map kind of showing most of Southeast Asia. You'll see where it says Northern Territory at the bottom, that's Australia, just for, kind of landmarks. You can see Thailand there, Vietnam, yes, but Philippines, and then Bali, and kind of right in the middle of all this, there's a big island. And the island has no name on this map, but that island is Borneo. You can see that right there, circled there. Interesting thing about Borneo is actually the island of Borneo belongs to two different countries. So it belongs to Indonesia and Malaysia. The bottom part, you see the green line kind of separating the map here. The bottom part of the map is the Indonesian side of Borneo, and the top portion is the Malaysian side of Borneo. When we visit Borneo, we visit the Malaysian side. It's a little bit more jungly, less business and tourist, or not tourists, but cities and busier cities and such in the Indonesian side. So the Malaysian side is a little bit more jungles and the wildlife and what we come to expect when we envision Borneo.
Mm-hmm. And our tour, as you said, stays kind of up there as if you've been traveling with the Women's Travel Club for a bit, you know that we really love our wildlife and our animals, ecotourism and whatnot. So I think that staying on the upper half is more within our stride, not to say that we would not venture more south. But I know Marianne, being the tour host for the second time now, you're excited to see some wildlife.
Oh, yes. And I can just say, looking at this map quickly before we go into all the pictures, you can see how it's separated into the Sarawak, kind of on the bottom portion of the area we're visiting, and Sabah up top. So our tour does both, and it starts kind of down more in the Sarawak area, and then we do fly up to Sabah area and end the tour in that area.
Mm-hmm. Good to point out for sure. So start, which is, as if you look in the bottom portion of the top half of the map, where it says Kuching, that is where the tour starts. So I've read in all my research that Kuching is known to be one of the most beautiful cities in Southeast Asia. Now, with your experience there, Marianne, what were your impressions?
It was actually a great city. It's not huge. It's kind of borders town / city, so it's not like a big bustling city. Where we stay is right on the waterfront, It's a great walkable area. There's lots around, lots of shopping, lots of restaurants. The waterfront is beautiful. It's a real mix of authentic kind of classic Malaysian and then also newer structures and great infrastructure.
Mhm.
And the hotel that we stay in is excellent, and the location couldn't be better. So it was a great town. Everybody really enjoyed themselves. We had a lot of fun walking around. A lot of the restaurants there went from kind of small mom and pop kind of really traditional restaurants to even more trendy pubby kind of restaurants. The picture in the top right was more of the trendy pubby type of restaurant, had like really cool signage, had this kind of open what do they call that, where they like you can see like, pipes and cement and everything, but
Rustic. It was rustic.
it was kind of, but the food was excellent. And then the markets and also crafts and shopping all right around where the hotel was. Easy walk. Uh,
Mhm.
one thing to note is Borneo is hot. It was very hot and very humid. You can see in the picture, I've got like one of those wet kind of cooling cloths wrapped around my neck to try and keep me cooler because it is quite steamy in
Yeah.
Borneo.
And then you're eating like the warm food and you're walking through the sun, and Kimberly's got her long sleeves on to protect from the sun, but
Yeah.
she's sweating at the same time, and it's all part of the experience.
Yes, and it was funny. We had like the standing joke about trying to, because it's a longer tour, so you're trying to do some laundry along the way, and it was hopeless. You try and hang it up to dry, and it wasn't drying.
It's not
There's no
happening.
way.
So the foods you're eating, because as you said, you can find the trendier pub style restaurants, but which you can find your burgers and your fries and stuff. But was it a huge, I guess you could say, culture shock having the traditional foods with the different?
No, the traditional foods were good. Kind of, Malaysian food is kind of this mixture of, you know, Asian foods that we're very used to. They can be quite spicy, but you can also get it, especially in any tourist areas, not very spicy. So
Mhm.
it was all food that you kind of would recognize or know what something similar.
Right.
We didn't come across any of the weird and wonderful stuff you might find someplace like Thailand or Vietnam, where they're deep frying bugs and stuff. There, I didn't see
That's
anything
what
like
I was
that.
really wondering, to be honest with you. Interesting, interesting. So, moving forward into the food kind of category of the tour, I guess you could say, cooking class. You got to do an authentic Bordean cooking class, and I find that on a lot of our itineraries, we like to include hands-on cooking activities and whatnot. So, tell us about a bit about this experience and why you chose to have it on the itinerary.
Well, I think cooking class is a great way to truly experience kind of the flavors and spices that a certain destination might be known for.
Mhm.
And it's you can do a market walk and see all the spices, but it's not the same as when you're actually using them, and you have somebody, a local chef, talking to you about how what this spice does and why we add this and where this came from and a little bit backstory, and then also being able to work with all the ingredients that they would, and cooking in the way they'll be like, oh, my mother taught me this part of a recipe, or something. And so that's a great way to really dive into a destination, because truly food is a global entity, that every destination's kind of known by its food, and different destinations are very well known for their foods. So learning about it, I think, really helps to learn more about the destination you're visiting.
Mhm.
Also, it's a great way for the women on the tour to connect with each other, cooking together. It just, everybody's having fun, everybody's kind of tasting, laughing.
Mhm.
um things are going well, things aren't going well, but everybody's enjoying it together. And then you get to eat it all at the end. So
It's
it's a
such
lot
a
of fun.
full circle kind of experience, I
Yeah.
guess you could classify it as. And I know I pointed it out to you prior to our starting, but the picture in the bottom left of you and Kimberly laughing away with each other will always get me. I think it's like you said, it's such a good way to kind of break down the barrier of not knowing each other really well at the beginning of the tour, but being able to poke fun and be like, "Are you sure you're doing that right?" And you're like, "No, I'm not, but we're doing it anyways." It kind of just flows naturally from
Yeah.
there is what
I
I.
think we were trying to get the burner lit and then thinking, oh, it's like 99 degrees in here. Why are we lighting a burner? And it just
Well,
cook itself.
that's the traditional cultural immersion that we're looking for. It's you got to do it. You got to do it in the climate they do it in, and you got to do it well. And but it looks in the picture in the middle. I'm coming to assume that these were all the dishes that were
Yes,
made, and everything looks fantastic. And I'm sure it
it
tasted
was
fantastic.
really good. Yeah, it was good. And it was like chicken. Everybody cooks with chicken. It
Yeah,
wasn't exotic at all. Well, the fiddleheads kind of, some people hadn't really cooked a lot with fiddleheads, so that was a little bit different and interesting. But yeah, it
but
was
it's
good.
nice that it's not too much of a big, culture clash.
Yeah,
You're still
yeah,
kind of working with things you know, which
and
is
you could kind of see the Asian flair
mhm,
to the food.
for
The peanut sauce that the
sure.
chicken's in there and such. So
Mhm.
it's Asian food that you would be familiar with.
Yes, exactly. So moving in forward, I guess. uh, now these aren't all from the same. These pictures aren't all from the same experience. But what I wanted to kind of touch on here is the water element of Borneo and how often the tour interacts with the water, whether that being on a longboat, a kayaking excursion, waterfalls. So, just can you walk us through a little bit of why that is and what you guys kind of did here?
Yeah, so a lot of the tour until we get into like Mulu National Park, which wasn't so much about on the water. A lot was like kind of on rivers mostly. The first pictures in Kaching, and we're doing a cultural boat ride, which is just goes up and down the river, but we had local dancers on the boat, and you got to learn about Kaching in the area and a little bit more out from where we're just walking around in our part of the town. Um, this the top picture on the right is also on that same boat. That's just all kind of sitting there on the boat. But in the middle is the kayaking experience. We didn't get a lot of pictures from the kayaking experience because it's hard to take pictures while you're kayaking. Um, but right here you can see everybody's got their life jackets on from the kayaks, and we're standing in the river feeding the fish and then taking pictures of the fish as they come up. But the kayaking experience, it's not crazy rapid. So it's a little bit, it's got to have some flow, else you won't go anywhere. But it's not crazy rapids at all. To start out, many of the women were a little bit nervous, and some were like, I don't know if I want to do this. But we did all do it. And I have to say, end up being a favorite activity for so many on the tour, and it was just fun. It was fun to be out on the water. It wasn't crazy scary there. Like I said, the rapids weren't crazy, so it was just enough to keep you moving without having to work too hard, and a great way to kind of see the river and just spend an afternoon.
Mhm.
And also when it's hot, it's nice to be on the water. So
Exactly.
it was a
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, well, it doesn't really look like you need your cooling scarf at this point in
yeah,
time, but it's always a good idea to keep it close.
yeah.
but um but yeah, I really liked that picture in the middle there because it just goes to, show us the interactive experiences like that there's no shortage of them to be
Oh
had
yeah.
on this tour specifically. So, and the long boats and the long houses
Yeah.
as well.
Well, so yeah, in the longhouses, they have the longboats, which are like basically big canoes that multiple people can fit into, and
Mhm.
that's what they use in the jungle to get around. They use the waterways. The jungle's so thick, you're not really going through the jungle at all. So the waterways are the route, and the longboats are how they get around.
Mhm.
And we'll go into the longboat experience, but that's how we get out to the longboat, in those canoes, or to the longhouse in
Yeah.
the canoes.
Mhm.
And it was, again, a great way to experience the river, see wildlife, and get around.
Yeah, exactly. Now, with speaking of wildlife and the ecotourism, this is Bako National Park. Now, we have Mulu National Park coming up, but Bako came first, and it seems to me that there's a lot of not just wildlife in an animal sense, but the fernage, I think it's called, and the trees and the
Yeah.
neighborhood surrounding, it looks to be very diverse and unique to Borneo. So, can you tell us a bit about the Bornean specific experience here in Bako?
So this was a great start. So this was kind of our first outing to a national park from Kaching when we were in the city.
Mhm.
And we went out in boats and spent the day kind of hiking and trekking around the park. The hiking and trekking in Borneo is pretty easy. Everything's fairly flat. I know there is kind of a mountain trek in Borneo. It's pretty famous, but we didn't do any of that. What we did was all fairly flat. A lot of the infrastructure is really good. So a lot of the places you can see we're on a boardwalk, because it is jungly and a little bit swampy in places, and they do a lot of boardwalks to make the walking easier, much easier. Getting out there was in boats, like I said, and some of the rock formations out in the water were fantastic. It was almost the most interesting part of the whole trip, was getting out there and seeing all these amazing rock formations.
Mhm.
Um, this isn't a park where you're going to go and see orangutans or anything like that. We did definitely see monkeys, fair number of monkeys, lots of birds, but it was really about the flora and just kind of learning about the plants and trees that are endemic in Borneo, and kind of help make up the jungles that are such a big part of the destination.
Absolutely. And while on that note, because we've got so many great women in the comments today, here's a question for you guys to ponder that we can circle back to if you know the answer. Marianne tested me yesterday, so it's your turn. um, what is the difference between a monkey and an ape? Now, if you know the answer now, feel free to put it in the comments. If you don't look it up. Just think on it. Come up with some ideas, and we'll circle back if nobody comes up with it now. But that is, I had to throw it out there, Marianne, because it's such a fun fact question, and it's my new favorite thing. So
What's your favorite thing?
I've been asking everybody. So, anyways, the monkey has tail. Jill,
Oh, Jill, you're too smart.
Jill, you're too smart for me. It took me way longer than that. But yeah, monkeys have tails, and Marianne
Apes don't.
and
So you think like gorilla, chimpanzee, orangutan are all apes, no tail.
no tail. Exactly. New fun fact for anybody who didn't know. You can now
And
type
there's other things like they're bigger and things like that, but that's kind of the easy one,
in
is
big.
to look for the tail.
So yeah, in stride, we've got a wide, diverse, group of monkeys here for you. And what's this bird? I don't know what it is. I failed
It's
to.
a hornbill.
A horn which? Sorry,
Hornbill.
hornbill.
It's
Is it?
I forget what type. It was really big. If I were to name it, I might call it a giant hornbill, but I can't
That's
remember the exact
that's what we'll go
species
with.
of hornbill it is, but yeah, it's a hornbill.
It's good you're going back,
Um,
and then you
and
can.
then the various types of monkeys. And the one here you see on the left with the big nose is a proboscis monkey, and they're one of the monkeys, or one of the animals that is endemic to Borneo. That they're kind of, they have certain animals that are only in Borneo and they're famous for, and this guy is one of them, the proboscis monkey.
Yeah, and don't tell him he's ugly because he's a very pretty boy.
He's a little funny looking, but
Won't hurt his
yeah.
confidence. He's trying his best with the tools he's been given. But, yeah, I thought this was a funny but interesting and informative slide because, like, you've got such a diverse range of wildlife to be seen in Borneo, but at the same time, there is those that are specific and indigenous to the area that you won't get the chance to see anywhere else. In this picture, again, like I want to remind you, these pictures were taken all by Women's Travel Club members. So kudos to Marianne and everybody on this trip.
Kimberly took a lot of them.
Yeah,
She had a big
Kimberly,
fancy camera, so
she's,
we have to
it's
give
no
kudos, Kimberly.
yeah, she's one of our hosts, and she does a great job on all of her tours to take great pictures, and these happen to be some of them. So thank you, Kimberly. Moving forward, kind of going into the other side of viewing the wildlife. This, I believe, is the what's it?
The Semonog.
Semonog. Semonog. Sorry, that is my
Seminole.
pronunciation. The Semonog orangutan
Seminole.
predator. Yes, we'll go with that. But this is a sort of like a rehabilitation center for semi-wild apes to come and, if they're hurt or injured or whatnot, they come here to get rehabilitated, and it's kind of an open concept for the apes, not the humans. Am I right in saying that, Marianne?
Yeah. So, it's quite well known the deforestation issues that are happening in Borneo, mostly for the production of palm oil, which is why you should always try not to buy anything with palm oil in it. But it's a whole aside. So with the deforestation, a lot of the orangutans are displaced. They have nowhere to go. And also there's a pet trade issue. So the rehabilitation centers, both this one and the one we'll see a little bit later, what they do is they take in any orangutans that are orphaned or hurt, sick, have no place to go, infringing on humans so that they're endangering the humans or themselves. Any of those situations, they bring the orangutans into the rehabilitation center, and their goal is to get them to the point where they're living a free life in the forest at the center. And they have also a nursery at the center and take like little teeny babies and grow them up in groups, working them till they can be kind of the semi-wild, like they're within the confines of the rehabilitation center, but really they're just not like they're fenced in. They could really go anywhere they want, but it's a big enough area that they stay within the area. They're safe there. They do feed them twice a day, and that's the viewing times. That's where you get to kind of watch them come in and grab food and leave. They do this, one is because it gives an opportunity for people who come to see them, which is really truly what's paying to keep the rehabilitation center open. So it'd be great to say, oh, they could just be there and be left alone and nobody sees them or anything, but that wouldn't keep the doors open in the rehabilitation center, because they do need money like everybody else to function. So having tourists come in and pay their entrance fee gives them the money to continue on with what they're doing, the good work they're doing. So they do these feeding platforms, and it's just kind of a little cleared out area in the jungle. We'll see a picture of one later. And they put some food out twice a day. Just it's like vegetables, fruits, kind of out on the platform, and it is up to the orangutans if they would like to come and get it or not. Like some will show up every day for a free meal, and some are out in the forest and quite happy and aren't coming in. So they never know who's coming or who's going. The orangutans are free to come and go anywhere they want. They do have little wood fences. You can kind of see it a little bit behind the group there. They're just like little 3-foot high wood fences. They're to keep the people in certain areas, not to keep the orangutans out, because orangutan wouldn't even think twice about that little fence. Um, so they do have the rangers there working, and when we were there, we did have a big male kind of coming in to get to the food, and he came in at a different angle. So instead of coming in through the forest, he was coming kind of down towards the path and down the path. So they had to move, like, the whole crowd of people watching and taking pictures, and they were very stern about moving us out of the way, because these are big animals. So they were very cautious to get us quite far out of the way to give him a wide berth to get in.
Yeah. It's like, yeah,
So
move the people, not the animals.
yeah. They just let them do what they want, and we're just spectators.
That's it. And it's a completely different from seeing them out in the wild, and like like we said, it's semi-wild because they still have their freedom and whatnot. But when you're per se like on a boat driving past the jungle and you're seeing them up in the trees and they're very far away, but this is different because it allows you the chance to actually kind of, without getting up actual close, get up close and
Yeah, like you're pretty close, really. I think in the another slide later we see a little
yeah.
bit how close you are. So you are pretty close.
Mhm.
And when we did see them in the wild, and when you see them in the wild, it's like, oh, that little speck up in that tree, that's an orangutan.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as like being right there and taking your pictures. Like, it is cool. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's orangutan in the wild, but they're not. And they're really high. The trees are high, and they're really high in the trees.
Yeah, and we're not going up
No.
there. No. But so moving kind of forward and just talk a bit about the local culture and that kind of sphere of the tour, and circling back to longhouses, because I know we had briefly mentioned it before, where you have to use the longboats to kind of navigate through the jungle, but these longhouses that we see in the bottom left corner, that's a picture of an interior. But can you talk to us a bit about the local life and the people and how they live here?
Yeah, so this would be kind of the native indigenous people that live in Borneo, and they live out in the jungle area. And like I said, like, the only way to get there was on the river, in a longboat. There's no roads or anything that go out
Mhm.
there. The lodge that we stay in is literally right next door to the longhouse, and the longhouse is their community. So you can see it's like a long corridor. Along the corridor, there'll be doors all along, and each door is a different kind of apartment. So it's almost like a one-floor apartment building that they live in. And they'll have, on one side, they'll have their living areas. On the other side, the side that we can see here, they'll have a door goes outside. There will be like a little balcony almost area, or a couple steps down to the ground. They might have a chicken coop out there. They other things like out there drying some laundry, and so that's kind of their outdoor area. This middle part of the longhouse they use for all their interaction together. So they'll have meetings there, or they'll do any ceremonies they'll have in there. They a lot of times will sit, you see this woman, she's just sitting outside her door making a basket, so they'll be sitting out there and talking and chatting, and it's their visiting area. It is really hot in Borneo, so I think having this indoor kind of covered shaded area is where it came from, just like a little bit cooler area to sit and visit and do anything that they're going to do together, but still having their own kind of apartment area behind it.
Beautiful. And the kids look so cute. I just have to say, like, they seem to be very welcoming to
Oh
you.
yeah, we were so welcomed. They loved to have us. Like, it was almost like one person wanted to show you something, and somebody else was coming. No, come see this, and like you can. They were just so excited to see us and have us there.
Share their
We were
culture.
very welcomed.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe we have, oh,
Will it play?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe it won't play.
Okay, if it won't play, I can still pull it up here and share my screen with you guys because I do love this video and I would love for you to be able to see it. It is a video of, is it the chief you
He's
said?
the chief. Yeah,
The
he's the
chief.
chief doing a little dance for us.
Oh yeah, I definitely want you guys to be able to see that. So let me just pull it up here. So it's going to be a little bit, small here, but it's worth it. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now, guys. Okay, all right. You're just gonna see the other slides at the bottom, but you'll be able to see the video. This is what I've got here. So this is the I love Kimberly in the back of that video, dancing her little heart away as she went
Yeah.
forward. So that looked, he just looks, I had to find a way to show you the video because he just looks so happy to have you guys there and to do his traditional dance and show you his culture. And he just seems so proud. And that's what I
Yeah.
would take away from being a part of this tour is that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was very authentic. Like literally, there's nobody around but us and the people that live there. It's not super touristy. It's not like you're running into other tourists. Like we never saw another tourist the whole time we were out in the jungle in this part.
Wow, that's awesome, and I
Yeah.
love extra level of intimacy within the group and connection with each other and sharing that specific, unique experience together is just like that's another thing that I feel that I would, you know, be proud to say I did that with those girls. So anyways, moving forward and kind of going along with the way of life and the culture of the locals. So from here, you guys were staying just by the longhouses, and after you took a hike and then a longboat ride, and then you went to a waterfall, and then you stopped for a picnic, and they prepared this meal in such a unique way. So walk us through that, Marianne, because I'm so interested.
So, yeah, we're at the waterfall swimming. Kind of, it was beautiful, and we should put a picture of the waterfall. But anyway, so um, then we were going to come have this picnic lunch, kind of on the banks of the river. And when we got there, a couple of the men had gone ahead, and you can see in the picture on the right where everybody's kind of staying around with their cameras, and this man's holding a big pole on top of a blue disc, kind of. You can see that. The big pole looking thing is actually a piece of bamboo, and bamboo's hollow in the middle. So they cut it off, and it has like parts that are solid. So they cut it off just before the solid bottom, like the part that would go across, and then it's hollow all the way up. And they would fill it with rice or meat or whatever they wanted to cook, and then they close up the top and they cook it over the fire, and it steams it inside, and that's how they cooked all the food that they served to us. It was just so neat, and the food was really good. So we had chicken cooked in there and rice and a bunch of different types of vegetables.
That's it's so unique. Like it's
Yeah.
something that when I saw these pictures going through the photo circle, I was like, "Oh, what is happening here?" Like, this is something that you do not see every day, unless you're maybe like a seasoned camper and you camp a lot. And
Knew you could cook in bamboo.
but cooking in bamboo is like, yeah, like that's
Yeah.
the unique part of it, which and it's looks like you all were ready to just sit down and kind of like the top picture here, everybody's
Yeah.
zoned into their meals and we're all relaxing by the water because I'm sure it was also very, very hot
Yeah.
at the time as well.
And you can also see in the bottom picture the long boats in
Mm.
the bottom right.
And roughly how many people did you guys have in one boat?
I'd say 4.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, not overpack them.
No, 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 no.
Like thin as well. So that's
Yeah, like big canoes.
big canoes.
Yeah.
So this is the I can't remember the name of the cave. I had it written down. Mulu at Mulu
Yeah,
National.
Mulu National Park. Yeah.
So you went there. I say we because I wish, but you went there, and you said it was a moment that you weren't really expecting to be what it was. So can you tell us about what your first impressions were when you walked up to these enormous caves?
So yeah, so it's a funny part that because pretty much all of the tour is about um it's a wildlife kind of based tour. So except for the time you're in Kuching, the rest of the time it's very much wildlife based. You're like in the jungle looking for wildlife, talking about wildlife, and then you leave all that and you go to Mulu National Park, which is also the park itself is great, to see these caves. And until I got there and you see the scope of the caves, you have no idea. I've never seen anything like it. These caves, and we would go in each cave and be in the cave for an hour, over an hour, and only seen just a tiny portion of the cave. They are so immense. Um, they're really well, the infrastructure inside the caves for the tourists is amazing. They all have, you can see stairs and boardwalks, so very secure footing. It's not slippery, it's not dangerous.
Mhm.
They have lights inside so you can see everything. It's very well done, but out in the middle of nowhere. You literally fly into Mulu and fly out of Mulu. There's nothing else around. um, we stayed at the Mulu Marriott, which was one of everybody's favorite hotels that we stayed
Mhm.
in along the way. It was excellent.
Yeah.
And it's like really, that's all, like it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was one of those like, oh my God moments where you get there and you're like, oh, wow. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't really expecting this to be one of my highlights, but looks like it is. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
It
love
was all, it
those.
was supposed to be all about the orangutans and the
Mhm.
wildlife, and everywhere else there were surprises
Yeah.
along the way.
Well, that seems like the theme of Borneo, that it's
Yeah.
very there's no shortage of things to find, discover, see, and something I mentioned to Marianne before joining the talk today about these pictures in particular is the caves look artistic in a way. It looks as if somebody went in and carved it out to be like that, which is something as an artistic person myself that I would take away is the beauty of the artistry of these caves.
Yeah, they were, and they were all different. They were all, each cave we went into was absolutely unique and totally different from the other ones.
Mhm, mhm. And like you said, there could be people who go in there and go for hours and hours and hours, like
Oh
navigating
yeah,
through these
these like
caves for
big time
nothing.
spelunkers would
Yeah,
go. Yeah,
but not us.
yeah,
Well, we'll go in for an hour here, an hour there. We've got apes to see.
yeah,
But yeah, that's beautiful. And just again, the boardwalks and the stairs and the lighting, I think, just really shows how much the locals and how well preserved and taken care
yeah,
of these spaces are, because the nature seems to be very important a part of their culture. So it's like places like these and the conservation areas that put in the culture into perspective and what they truly care about in Borneo. So that's my comment on that. This is another video that I can play as well, just if I share my screen here. And it's just to kind of give you guys an idea of the scope um, of the size of the cave. So here it is here. There we go. It's just so vast. Like that's
oh
really
yeah.
the word I can think of is vast. So this is the second conservation orangutan or ape conservation area that you guys went to. This is the Spelok, is it
Yeah.
pronounced? Spelok. So this bottom right picture here kind of gives you guys watching a better visual as to what the area looks like and how the tourists are able to observe the orangutans and not interact, but take pictures and see them kind of hanging out with their bananas. So something about this park that Marianne had pointed out to me is really cool is the ropes that they have that surround that main area. Can you tell us why they have those ropes there, Marianne?
Well, so orangutans are, what would you call it, arboreal? Like,
Arbor-
yeah, they're tree dwellers, so they're always high in trees.
Mhm,
They don't spend a lot of time on the ground, and if they do, it's just kind of getting from one tree to another idea.
mhm, mhm,
Um, when they build these platforms and they to put the food on, if they ideally they would be surrounded by trees, and then the orangutan would just use go from the tree to the platform. But then we wouldn't be able to see them. So
yes,
the tourists wouldn't keep coming.
yeah,
So they have to keep the trees kind of cleared away so that we can see it. So they put the ropes down as an easy access from the trees to the platform
mhm,
for the orangutans.
mhm.
And you can see they quite like the ropes and hang from them and play from them.
Yeah. It's very different from, say, observing animals on a safari in a national park, say in
Yeah.
India. Like when I was in India, in my four-wheeler, and you let them kind of come as they please and whatnot. And so do the orangutans here, but it's in a more kind of, I don't want to say stage like to kind of put on a.
Yeah, it's funny because really most of the time they're just out
Mhm.
in, which would be the same as like a national park in India,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
still a national park. So it's still this rehabilitation area that's pretty much just wild. Nobody's going out there. But the whole feeding them twice a day is different than you would say on a safari. They're not feeding the animals on the safari to get them to come in to see them.
Yes.
Whereas here they are feeding them
Yeah.
a couple times a day.
It's the difference. And then with that, we have the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Center, which is something I was not expecting to see in Borneo would be bears, but they are there. And actually, there's not many of them. There's 30 roughly, from what I read. And that
At
is
the conservation center,
at the,
yeah.
yes, at the
There's
conservation.
more in Borneo, but they are endangered. They are definitely critically endangered.
Mhm. But this
So
is kind of within that same realm of preserving, protecting,
yeah,
rehabilitating, and taking care
yeah,
of the wild.
yeah. These are very cute little guys.
Mhm.
And you can see them. They're pretty easy to see. They're all in kind of different enclosures.
Mm,
And there's boardwalks and areas that you can walk around to kind of look down and see them.
mhm,
It's right next door to the Spelak Orangutan center, so
mhm,
it's like literally walk across the parking lot and go into the next
mhm,
center. But yeah, it's fascinating. You can learn all about them and
mhm.
what they like to eat, and
It's just another layer of like making sure we see as much wildlife as possible because that's really what the tour is about. Now, like we've said, there are many other little surprises and fun things that will be seen and done along the way, which is what brings it full circle. But the main kind of goal here is the wildlife, and these conservation centers are a big part of preserving that wildlife in Borneo. So I think it's amazing that we have three great ones on the itinerary for you guys to enjoy. So that is. Oh, we have this little guy here again. I forgot to
yeah.
say. No, that's my bad. I just liked his
Yeah.
so much. I had to show you twice. But this is one of other than we'll name him Fred. Other than Fred, this is one of the resorts or reserves lodges that you guys stayed on. What was called the Kinabatang. Had to read that one.
Yeah.
Kinibatang Riverside Lodge. It was developed and sustained now by the locals, and it sits next to the Kinibatang River, which is the second largest river in Malaysia. So we have used that in the past, and you've chosen to use it again for our upcoming tour in 2025. So why is that? What did you like about the Kinibatang?
Well, it's so this is kind of getting out into true wildlife reserve. So this would be like similar to what you've experienced on safari with a nature reserve. So it's same
Mhm.
thing, big, huge nature reserves, and going out twice a day to look for animals. The only difference here is because the jungle's so thick, you don't go by road, you wouldn't see anything except if something happened to be right there,
Mhm.
because the jungle is so incredibly thick. So you go out in boats and looking for, again, all different types of wildlife. Of course, orangutans is the big one, proboscis monkeys, other types of monkeys. You can see some reptiles, and another big one is the pygmy elephants, which we did not see, unfortunately, um, on our trip. And literally, this is how thick everything is. So we're on our boat, and there was a big, big area, big, huge reeds. I don't know how tall, but very tall.
Mhm.
And on the other side of these reeds were the elephants. We could hear them. You could hear them making little like trumpety noises and rustling around. You could see the reeds moving back and forth. You can smell them. We were so close, but we sat there for 2 hours waiting to see if one would come out, and they did not come out. So we did not, even though we knew they were right there. I'm like, we just go over and like move the reeds.
Yeah.
They're right there. We
Just
did
show
not
me.
see them. So
Look like the man behind the curtain kind of thing. Like they were not ready to be seen that day, but
no,
another reason for you to go again, Marianne, and
yeah,
take your chance at it next year in 2025. And I'm so excited for you, and I'm hoping and
yeah.
praying that you get your dream fulfilled of seeing.
Yes.
But no, that's really cool that you get to see the two different sides of it, where you've got Kuching, where it's a little bit more city, not like you said, bordering on a town like, but different from what you would see up here in the northern part, where you've got the really, really thick vegetation. You've got the elephants literally walking right there. Can't see them, but they're there.
They're there.
They're there, and then you get, of course, the water aspect to it as well, along the Kinibatang River, and the different kinds of fish and whatnot and birds that you see around there. So it seems to be fully well rounded. This itinerary, in the places that we're staying, the experiences that we're doing, and the wildlife that we're getting to see.
And this lodge was great too. It had a really nice common area, but also areas to sit kind of along the river, and it
Mhm.
had a great pool area.
Ooh,
We
I
did
always
spend, I think, most afternoons just hanging out in the pool area.
Well, when it's that hot that you need a wet cloth around your neck, Marianne, I think the pool is your best friend at that point. So these are some. Oh, there's the waterfall.
Oh yeah.
Told ya. I told you I had one. But these are just kind of some fun little pictures that I grabbed to kind of, bring it to fruition. But a question I have for you, and you might have already mentioned it in the talk already, but that's okay. What was your favorite part?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I would have gone in saying it would be the orangutans, because
Yeah.
that was like my whole thing. I just wanted to go see the orangutans. Um, I think it's really hard to pick one thing, because it was really the whole trip was, again, like every part just kept getting better,
Mhm.
or at least as good as the last.
Yeah.
I think going out into the jungle to the longhouse was like quite um an experience, because
Mhm.
not only meeting the indigenous people and seeing how welcoming, and they're just so nice, like
Yeah.
you can see the smile on his face, and they're just like that, they're so warm.
Mhm.
um and it was like that real kind of camping feeling with the lodge,
The
and
picnic.
being on the river, and that was great. I also seeing, the wildlife all around, and I love
Just
the whole
loved it
thing.
all.
That's why I'm going back. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't generally do like the same tour back to back like every couple of years, but I was like, yeah, I'd go back. That's one place I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So any tips or packing, like what's the one thing you can suggest to our members to pack or
Quick dry clothes.
dry clothes? Yeah. Moisture wicking materials is what
Yeah.
we're looking for.
Yeah. Don't bother with the pants.
Okay. Loose, airy cotton is what
Yeah.
something I learned in India that
Oh,
is
it
very
was
useful.
funny because there was a big thing before we went. Like, we always do the Zoom meetings
Yeah.
with everybody before, and there was a big thing about leeches. I don't
Oh,
know. Somebody read somewhere about leeches and leeches in the jungle, and you had to have anti-leech socks, and like it was like this big discussion. And I'm asking the tour operator, and he's like, I don't think so. We got there, and like every time we said leeches, people looked at us funny, and they're like, no, we don't
no.
know, maybe. No, I've never seen a leech.
Right.
Was like,
Just
so
keep
you don't need anti-leech socks.
That's a
No.
good tip. This is why we do these travel talks, guys, so that you don't have to resort to Google for all your information. We are here, we are your Google, and we have answers to questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll get the answer from somebody in the country. So
That actually does know.
that actually does know. So anything, and this is a great time to say, if you have any questions, definitely always put them in the comments. We're here to answer. But if not, I have our contact page I'll put up at the end, but you can contact us as well. But with that being said, just to give you guys the dates for next year, it will be March 28th to April 13th of 2025 that the Women's Travel Club will be doing Borneo. And if you haven't guessed or assumed already, Marianne is going again, and she is going to be the tour host. So if you were wavering your decision before, I think that should sell you, because not only do you have Marianne, but you have somebody who's been there before from the Women's Travel Club, which is always a great thing to have. And these two things you see here, the 2 nights on Gaia Island, and then an option for an overwater bungalow, and the Tabin Wildlife Resort. Those are 2 new additions that we've put onto the 2025 itinerary. So those are 2 things that Marianne might not have done, but is also very excited to venture into. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, we thought a couple things when we had a bicycle ride, but we decided that riding a bicycle in 90-degree humid weather was not fun.
Yeah,
And so it was like it was a long bicycle ride too. Like, we're like, what are we doing? This is insane. So yeah, we took the bicycle ride out, and opened up a kind of a day from the beginning and shortened a little bit the time and kitching. And then we wanted to add a little bit of time on the coast. So this is by Kota Kinabalu, Gaia Island, and it gives an opportunity to enjoy some of the things that we didn't have in the tour. So like snorkeling options and being out on the ocean. So we do have a lot of water, as we mentioned, but it was all rivers and that type of water, nothing out right on the ocean. So this takes us out into the ocean and gives us a little bit more wildlife, being sea wildlife. And then at the end, just because I am not leaving Borneo again without seeing a pygmy elephant, we added a couple nights at another wildlife resort a little farther down the river from Kinabalu. So we still do the Kinabalu wildlife or eco resort, and then we go a little bit farther down and do the Tabin Wildlife Resort for a couple nights, just to add a little bit more at the end, a little bit more opportunity to see some more wildlife at the end.
Yeah. And I think that is like Marianne's goal is going to be fulfilled, whether you like it or not. Like, you go see the elephants, and hopefully you all do. And I'm really excited for you guys to venture into this. Mysterious isn't really the right word.
Exotic?
Mystical, exotic,
Exotic
yeah,
adventure?
something, yeah, something like that. Destination. So again, from March 28th to April 13th, and just for you guys, really quick, I'll put up our contact page here as well. So if you need to reach out to us, that is our phone number on the screen and our email as well. My name is Allie, and I do monitor that. So I would love for you guys to reach out, have a conversation with me. But again, Marianne, thank you so much for sitting
Oh,
down with
thank
us,
you.
giving us your perspective on the 2023 tour, and giving us, that little sneak peek into what 2025 has for us. And thank you, everybody, for being here.
And does anybody have any questions? Anything? No, no,
I just
no
got an
questions.
email. So maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Well, yes. If you do think of any questions, please reach out
Mhm,
because this truly was a trip of a lifetime.
mhm,
I was very much excited to do it before I did it, and it didn't disappoint at all.
mhm.
So
You loved it so much, you're doing it again.
yeah,
And we
there's an
actually did
opportunity.
have some comments on Facebook. I think there was one comment of a member who was on the tour, and she said, I absolutely loved this. Was such a great tour, and so there was it was well received by more than just Marianne, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, Jill's just wondering if there's an opportunity to wash clothes. Yes, there is for sure. Like some of the different resorts or hotels offered laundry service. Definitely Mulu did, and they had a great laundry service, and they're kind of in the middle of the tour, so it's a great time to get laundry done. But there are options to have laundry done along the way
It's a
because
great.
washing it in your room, it sounds great until it doesn't dry.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's why we said moisture wicking materials, ladies.
Yeah.
That's a very good question though, because those are the kinds of things that you don't really think about when you're planning a vacation or a trip, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wait, my clothes will get dirty." Like, I need
Yeah. Oh, they will. Yeah.
to attend to that. So, yeah. Oh, Christine says bon voyage. I hope that means you're coming on the tour, Christine.
Are most hotels air conditioned? Yes. Except the out at the longhouse in the jungle. The lodge there was not air conditioned. It was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wish jungles would have AC. I would have liked.
But it wasn't too bad, I think, because it's like kind of there's enough shade around, like trees and such, so it wasn't horrible. But yeah, it did not have air conditioning.
Mhm. Any more questions? Definitely pop them into the comments, especially while you have Marianne here, because she's a hard one to track down, I'll tell you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, Marianne's a very hard worker, and it's always great to have you on a travel talk because you give us such
Oh,
a great
thank
insight
you.
on the destinations. So again, thanks for being here, and I hope to have you on again once you get back from your next adventure, and we
Yes.
can talk about other tours that you have done, because I find that every tour you've done, the pictures just are amazing to go along with it. So I'd love that. I don't. Oh, so we've got Carol asking shorts question mark and water type shoes question mark.
Yes and yes. So shorts, yes, because it's hot. You're gonna want shorts. And water shoes. Yeah. So I just wore, just the water shoes that you get that have like the rubber bottom with the kind of meshy top. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Typical water shoes.
Mhm.
So any of the water activities, we wore those. So even definitely for the kayaking, for going out in the longboat to go to the waterfall,
Mhm.
that for sure. And some of the other water type activities. Even you could wear water shoes out in the just the regular boat at Kinabatan, going out to see along the river to see the wildlife. If you wanted, you could wear water shoes there. So water shoes or kind of like the Tiva sandals. A lot of people wore those too.
Perfect. There's a comment asking for recommendation for a tour group that offers trips to South India, April to June next year for solo. Now we do have trips. We have two. We have an India cultural tour happening for Holi from March 2nd to 16th, and then that carries over into our signature India Tiger Safari from the 17th to the 31st of March next year. So I would love to reach out to you, Persephone, and give you more information about those tours. It's perfect for solo traveler. We do double and single occupancy rates. So after this talk, I'll send you a message and reach out. Carol. So we've got
Uh,
two. Oh, I see you're answering
yeah.
it. Carol.
So yeah, not an issue at all to be a vegan. They quite easily cater to anything like that. A lot of, I think, kind of Asian food, which I would include Malaysia kind of into that Asian food, especially when you get like certain religions which are more prevalent, then vegan is not a problem at all. It quite lends itself to vegan food. The insects weren't horrible as you think they could be. I still say, people always ask about insects. I think, and I've traveled a ton of Africa, a ton of South America, everywhere. The worst insects in the world are in like northern Ontario and Canada. like black flies and mosquitoes.
Oh,
It's like the worst.
worst.
But so yes, because it is jungly, there can be insects. I always recommend bringing like a DEET kind of spray.
Mm-hmm.
They're not crazy. It's not, unbearable, but definitely there are,
They're around.
mosquitoes and insects for sure.
They're around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
As they are in most places, but in the jungle particularly, it's a great question to ask.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you are doing the
Um,
Indo Wildlife, and if not, who is the tour leader for the trip? I think last I saw it was Kirsten.
I believe Kirsten was the last person.
Yeah, I did the India Wildlife this year, so I could answer any questions about that one too. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's Kirsten that was on the list for the India Wildlife Safari.
That's the
So
last.
it's a tiger safari.
Yeah, and then I believe that means the Holy as well. She might.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, we do a lot of India, and then we've got our snow leopard expedition happening for the 2026 season.
yeah,
So lots of India, lots of wildlife to be seen there, and it's just as hot. If I would say, I don't know Borneo's temperature, but I was in like 50 degrees Celsius heat, Marianne. I was dying over there in India.
yeah.
So moisture wicking materials, guys. That's all we're promoting here.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I know it takes a minute to type, so I'm waiting, giving you guys
Yeah,
a minute to
just
see
to
if
make
we
sure
have
we're not missing anybody's.
any questions.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there.
Oh, how many signed up? I think there's, I can't remember, maybe 8 signed up, or if we're not at our minimum, we're very close to the minimum.
Yeah.
And I think our maximum is 16.
Yeah, something like that. I think you're right in saying we're right there at the minimum, just
Yeah.
somewhere in and around those numbers. But yeah, it's always nice little intimate groups with the kids.
Yeah. It was a nice, I think I, think around 10 for this group is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Is
Yeah.
that roughly how many you guys had on in 2023?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was, I'd have
That's
to
always
count everybody, but I think that was about the number, and it was just perfect. Just a nice small group. Everybody
Mhm.
got along, it was
Well,
great.
especially when you're saying that you're not seeing any other tourists at all at the time. Like while you're there, it's just your group in the jungle, kind of
Yeah,
going through the
it's
motions.
really not crazy for tourism. Like probably the most you saw was in Mulu, and that's probably because it's the only, like, everybody coming there is a tourist kind
Mhm.
of idea. But
Mhm.
that was probably the most other tourists we saw the whole time we were there.
Right, right. Any more questions? We're here. It's like that lull where you're waiting for people to type and You don't know what to say, so you say the same thing every time.
Mm.
Um, I give you guys 10 more seconds. No, I'm kidding.
I
You
passed.
have watch the countdown. No, I'm kidding. I think that this was
Okay.
a really great time, and it was very informative, and it was fun because, with a lot of these presentations, when we have other suppliers on and whatnot, we get a great insight and we get to see some pretty amazing pictures. But what was really special is that, like I said before, every picture that you saw was taken by a member of the Women's Travel Club. So that is always fun to have. And Mary Beth says, super cool. Thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, thank all of you for being here and being so interactive today. And again, if you have any questions, that is the phone number and email on the screen. Christine is
Oh,
asking, no problem, Debbie. India and tigers, do you see the tigers in their natural habitat
me
or
too.
preserves? Which it's basic, it's like a
Well,
mix.
they're in okay, they're in tiger reserves, but a tiger reserve is like the size of, I
Like
don't know.
a
Like
country.
you could drive around it for 3 days and not
It's so
have
it's
gone all the way around it. So it's not like a zoo or anything like that. It's just like being in Africa and being at a national park and seeing the animals. So,
yeah.
like uh, in India, they're reserves or national parks, which just means that they're protected areas. So
Mhm,
nobody's allowed to hunt in them or anything
mhm,
like that.
yeah.
And they are patrolled, but
Mhm,
the tigers themselves are wild in
yeah.
that area. Nobody's feeding them or looking after them. They're just there looking after
Like,
themselves kind of
don't get out
in
of the
that
four-wheeler.
area. Yeah.
Don't get out of the car, out of the
No.
four-wheeler,
No.
'cause that is a wild tiger that will see a little thing moving and
Yeah. They're just
so
big
if you
cats.
stay in the yeah, if you stay in the vehicle, they'll think you're a bigger animal and they won't so that's
Yeah.
the type of wi they're still wild, but they're protected, so it's kinda
Yeah.
like a mixture. Still thinking about it. Well, Carol, if
Oh,
you wanna
we
talk
hope you
about
do
it
decide.
yeah, and if you wanna talk about it and, maybe share what you're pondering, what maybe your reservations are, I would love to hear those and maybe, uh, set your mind at ease or give you any, good advice or tips, on going on this tour 'cause, it's proven to be quite incredible. So I hope we can help you fulfill those goals. Debbie and Jill have said thank you as well. Jill says, "We will see you in Borneo."
Yay, Jill.
Yay. All right, guys, think I think we're safe to say
Yeah.
we're good to go. But yeah, reach out, email, phone call, and we're always ready to talk. But again, thank you guys and have
Thanks,
a
everybody.
great Wednesday. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.